Welcome. Great to have you here. This is a unique moment, a moment that unites all of us. We all face anxiety and loss. We all see broken systems. We all experience the impact of the climate crisis. This is a unique moment. This is a turning point if we choose to make it one. This is a moment to reflect, to learn, to share, and to co-create. And I invite you to contribute. I ask you to contribute. I ask you to partner to fix broken systems. I ask you to join the movement so everyone can step into their change-making power. I ask you to nominate the next generation of changemakers. And I ask you to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise. And I ask you to donate to support changemakers. This is our moment to fix the world. This is our moment to contribute. Today is the day, and you are the one.
Welcome everybody to this session. I am really happy to animate the session today with you. We will have a very great guest with us today because we will have a discussion with Elaine Longstreet from Nestle and José Manuel Moller from Algramo. And we will dig into our topic in a few minutes. Before that, I just want you to give you some numbers. If you're in this session, it's very probable that you've already heard about these numbers, but I think it's important that we all have this in our mind when we are discussing the packaging topic. And one of the numbers I wanted to give you is that a recent research from the Pew Charitable Trust found that without action, the yearly flow of plastic into our oceans will nearly triple by 2040. However, we know that it's a very dramatic issue in terms of environmental cost, but also social cost. However, there is hope. And we also know in the same report that if companies and governments put available tools to work at scale, the rate of such pollution could be reduced by 80%. However, in order to achieve this goal, we will need to have to reimagine packaging and rethink recycling system worldwide. This is the reason why we are having this session today, in order to explore these questions. And so in order to do that, we will have first a conversation with our speakers. Do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat room. So we will be able to ask these questions to the speakers if we can see the question that you ask in the chat. The first speaker we have today is Elaine Longstreet from Nestle. And I would like to have a first conversation with you. Maybe you can tell us who you are, what you are doing at Nestle, and regarding this issue of packaging, what is for you and for Nestle the most important thing to say, or at least, let's say, the first step to take, and why?
Thank you, Melanie. Hello, everyone. So I'm Elaine Longstreet. I work for the R&D packaging in Nestle. I'm in the central function, and I'm actually leading the transformation to what we call alternative delivery systems, which are reuse, refill models. So I just wanted to start by, before answering your question, just to tell you about our vision, which is that none of our packaging, including plastics, will end up in landfill or as litter. And for that, obviously, we need to improve and find new solutions. And our commitment is to make 100% of all our packaging recyclable or reusable by 2025. We've also recently committed to reducing our use of virgin plastics by 1/3 in that same period. So this is definitely a multiple approach. There's no silver bullet in order to solve this massive issue that we recognize. So we have actually laid down 5 pillars. And the first one that is key and linked to that more recent commitment that we've made in January of this year is an investment of 2 billion Swiss francs to lead the shift from virgin plastics to food-grade recycled plastics to accelerate the development of innovative, sustainable packaging solutions. A recent example of using more recycled content into our packaging is for our Nespresso capsules. That is very, very well known, and we are actually now using up to 80% recycled aluminium, which is a very important step towards circularity. We're also looking, obviously, at increasing the amount of recycled PET in all our portfolio and in all our bottles. So that is just one example of for the first pillar that we have. Actually, the next 2 pillars are really much on innovation. And the second one is about what I'm doing is scaling up reusable and refillable systems to eliminate the need for disposable and single-use packaging. Just to give you a few examples, again, in Switzerland, we've gone into a collaboration with a startup named Miwa to pilot a reusable and refillable dispenser for pet care and for our soluble coffee brands, and we are actually ready to scale it up for Purina. In Chile, we will talk about this with Jose Manuel more, but we've also just started our new pilot with Algramo to test their innovative mobile bulk delivery system for Purina Dog Show brand. So we will talk about that in a minute. The third pillar, also about innovation, is pioneering alternative packaging materials. Okay, we need to facilitate recycling, and for that we have created, to increase our expertise on the domain, we've created the Nestle Institute for Packaging Sciences, which objective is to explore the novel material solutions, including paper, but also including biodegradable materials, bio-based, but they're also supporting our global R&D capabilities with science. So you may have heard, we already rolled out paper-based packaging such as the Nesquik pouch and the Yes Bar, and we're also transitioning to paper for other brands such as Marty's, the Sharing Blocks, Maggi, and really accelerating in this field. Yeah.
That's very interesting, because what you're saying is the innovative part is really important. Like, we cannot just implement a solution that already exists, but you're really looking for new innovation. It's something that we know very well at SoScience, because we try to link innovation with communities. And something I wanted to ask you is, in this innovation process, how does Nestle integrate the reality on the ground? And we know it's a lot of different actors. It might be waste management bodies, it might be different stakeholders on the field, community, consumers, retailers even. So how do you integrate all these people in the work and in your missions?
Actually, what I've talked about before is about making our packaging designed for recycling, or reducing the amount of packaging that we have. But obviously, we need to adapt to the reality of the floor to make them actually recycled. So the fourth pillar is about supporting the infrastructure. So working with government and waste management bodies to improve recycling infrastructure. Again, to give an example, in August of this year, Nestle Philippines reached the plastic neutrality, which means for us that we make sure that any ton of plastics that we put on the market is collected back and managed properly. As you probably know, also we're founding signatory and a partner of the New Plastic Economy Global Commitment, so the initiative led jointly by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And our objective within this pillar is to support the most effective packaging waste management systems. such as deposit return schemes, shared responsibility schemes such as EPR, or pay-as-you-throw systems based on what works the best in the local context. So that was the fourth pillar. And finally, the fifth one and the final one is driving new behaviors, because once you have a packaging that's designed for recycling and you have the facilities and the infrastructure to recycle it, then you need the final gesture. The consumers, our consumers, they need to put the packaging in the right bin. So there's, again, many examples of where we're acting. But recently in Italy, we introduced a digital platform to help our consumers dispose of their packaging waste appropriately. There's a QR code on each pack. In Argentina, we're driving positive change through school programs with the Tuneian Verde project. And finally, and most importantly, we've just run a big project for us, which is rolling out a sustainable packaging education and training program for all of our 290,000 employees within Nestle. It starts by us, and hopefully this will go to all the families.
So we see that's a huge number, and it's good to see that, because the problem is also huge. And so this would be my last question, at least for now, which is, how do you scale up the solution? The problem is huge. It's very difficult to comprehend and to change things. So what are the challenges that you encounter in order to really scale up?
Well, so we're obviously starting with pilots when it is really innovative, such as, for example, reuse models that for us are very, very new. The most important thing to consider for us is to guarantee food quality and safety. So this is really the first thing that we need to validate before we can scale up a solution, to make sure that all the system is in place, materials are safe, and that everywhere in the world we can find a relevant solution, which is not easy, because in every country there's another reality, right? So for reuse and refill systems, for example, we also need to guarantee traceability, which actually fits well with circularity, because we need to make sure that the product that was produced in our factory ends up safe in the hand of the consumer, but that it can be traced back in case there is any issue. So traceability, this is key. So obviously the packaging serves a purpose on that matter. It's not only for communication purposes, it's definitely for quality and safety. So obviously the other thing is to adapt to the consumer needs, because the objective is not to lose any of our consumers. So it's to guarantee them also the right experience and the right value proposition, especially when you're asking them to change consumer shopping behavior. If you're asking them to buy in bulk, they will need to make this extra effort. So it needs to be seamless for them and easy for them to adapt to this new way of behavior. So again, it takes time. We need to learn first, and we need to make sure that we have the right communication to them. And we have the right partner in place everywhere in the world to make it happen.
Thank you for these answers. I see we have some audience questions. So I will take two. The first one I would like to ask you is, how can we make sure that innovations in packaging, recycling, etc., are available for all manufacturers, and especially the audience asks, including the smaller ones?
So we are not the ones developing the recycling technologies. We are partnering up. And this session is actually about collaboration and partnership. We are looking at, we are searching for the relevant partners that have the relevant technologies, and those can work only at scale. And we are big, but we are not big enough to have to use everything. So let me tell you that everything related to packaging sustainability is quite open, and any new solution and any good solution is open to all. That's very clear.
All right. A second one, which is kind of linked, but maybe you will have a different approach to this. Can some of those innovations be shared? And especially, for example, if we take reusable packaging, how can we make sure it is reusable for products of different companies?
Again, working with partners such as Algramo shows that we're not the only one working with Algramo, and Algramo will not make the business only with us. So there are shared solutions, and I guess Jose Manuel will talk about that, but they make sure that it is open to all. If we're talking about other aspects of innovation, such as going to paper, again, we need scale. The paper industry works well only at scale, big time. So obviously, if there is anything that we are developing, we are keeping at the beginning some advantages, but really not for long. And the objective is to make sure that this technology, if the solution is to go to paper for some applications, and we see very well in the industry that this is the trend for all of us. Yeah.
Okay, so we have another question that we can take because we have a bit of time still. So even if the packaging is recyclable, shouldn't we tend to not wrap products since the recycling process itself consumes many resources? And as I have been talking with you, I know that one thing you said to me and I thought was quite interesting is the fact that there is no one unique solution because it depends on the market. So maybe you can enter a little bit more in detail into that in order to answer that question.
Sorry, I really don't quite understand the beginning of the...
So the question is to say that somehow it's not enough to have a packaging recyclable because the recycling process asks for energy, basically.
Mm-hmm. It does, but actually much less than reusing some virgin materials. So when we implement an innovation, we are always keen to evaluate the overall life cycle of a packaging, and we use LCA quite a lot to really evaluate this. And I can tell you that recycling is energivore. It depends, and obviously a mechanical recycling takes less energy than if we go to a more chemical recycling or pyrolysis. This is very clear, but it is worth it. It is definitely worth it. What works the best is reduce, and we know that. So reducing the amount of packaging, reducing the size, the head space as much as we can, going to reuse as much as we can, and we know that it has a more impact. But we will always need packaging, and as much as we are trying to reduce it, we will always need packaging, and we need to make sure it is well managed. And if it is well managed and recycled, it will happen. But yes, the solution is different from country to country. The infrastructure is sometimes very well developed when we think about Germany or some parts of Europe. In other parts of the world, it's much less developed. So in that case, we need to find other valorization routes. Yeah. Maybe I just want to finish up my part to mention the Nestle Creating Shared Value Prize 2020, which is actually done in partnership with Ashoka, and it aims at identifying system-changing projects that will support Nestle's vision. That none of our packaging end up in landfill or as litter. So we're looking for high-quality initiatives that can help us accelerate on our 5 pillars approach. The winners will be entitled to a cash prize of up to 250,000 Swiss francs, and they'll also benefit from Ashoka's online resources. But most importantly, they will benefit in taking part, workshops to explore potential collaboration with us, with Nestle employees, working on the packaging topic worldwide. So we are open to your applications.
Thank you, Elaine. And indeed, it's interesting that you mentioned that one of the big part of this prize is actually potential collaboration, because we will now talk about one example of what this looks like. And in order to do that, I will like to start the conversation with Jose Manuel, that is the founder of Algramo. And so could you first start by explaining to us what is Algramo and maybe sharing what you did with Nestle?
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me here. I'm Jose Manuel Moller, the CEO and founder of Algramo. By in English means by the gram. The story of Algramo, we're a social startup that we're trying to solve two main problems. The first one, what we call the poverty tax. The poverty tax happens when the families, they don't have enough resources to get the largest packaging and are forced to get the smaller one. The sachet of coffee, quarter liter of cooking oil, I don't know, half of a liter for laundry detergent, etc. Most of those families that are forced to pay the smallest packaging, and doing that, they pay around 40% more than the users that they have enough resources to get the largest one. So we define that problem as the poverty tax. And the second problem that we're trying to solve that is really well connected with that one, it's the packaging waste, the single-use packaging that today is one of the main concerns that we have globally. As you were saying, Melanie, it's a huge crisis that needs radical solutions. So in the beginning of Gramo, we were working under our own private label brand in Chile with mom-and-pop stores. But in 2018, when the International Panel of Climate Change announced that we have until 2030 to reach the Paris Agreement goals, we decided to switch from working or with our own brand, with our own logistics, to open up our system because we are from Chile and Chile produces 0.25% of the global emissions. That's closer to zero. No, not because we don't pollute, because we are a really small country. And based on that, we decide to switch from compete to collaborate with others. And we picked the biggest partners that they were showing a commitment on reducing their emissions. So that's why we picked Nestle as one of our main partners. But also, as Helen was mentioning, we partner with other brands like Unilever and others that we're going to be launching in the coming month. But actually, one of our strongest alliances is with Nestle, not only because of the product and the portfolio that they're selling, but to be honest, because of the real commitment that they have been showing us on moving from single use to refill. So at that moment, we decided to create a whole new solution that could be aligned with the quality needs of Nestle, having traceability of the quality of the product, but also integrate payments, showing to customer how to purchase this in an easy way. And we create what we call the packaging as a wallet. A packaging as a wallet is a packaging that has an attack that could be RFID or NFC, depends on the product. We create also a Gram app that the user download, and we have our dispenser machine that are IoT connected. So we have the traceability of the product, but also of the consumer in terms of when it expires and when was produced that product. So we have all that information real time for our partners, for the customer. With that, we ensure the quality of the product, but also we allow to reduce the cost of the product. Today, on average, we're trying to reduce the cost of the product between 15 to 30%, and we charge the same price per kilo independently on the amount of your purchasing. That leads us to solve the poverty tax. So if you purchase, for example, today, I don't know, a half of a kilo or a kilo of pet food from our Purina dispenser, you pay the same price per kilo as the one who is purchasing 15. So we don't charge more the user if they don't have enough resources to pay more, because also this is a social problem. And also we are eliminating the need of recycling. Actually, how we present ourselves that we want to make recycling obsolete. Everyone wants to move away from recycling, but today is the best solution that we have for many packaging. So we have been collaborating to move from recycling to refill in as many products as we can. This year, we launched one of our first solution with Nestle Purina that we are doing home delivery in electric tricycle to the user's place, bringing the dispenser at the user's home. So how this work? The user through the app schedule a visiting from Algramo and say, okay, I need a dog chow. That's the Purina brand that we are selling. And then we visit, and then I don't know, on Tuesday at 6 p.m. And then this work like a gas station. So you will have a smart container, and if you don't have one, we'll give you one in the beginning, and then you will purchase as much as you want. So today, for example, we have been user purchasing 3 kilos, 10 kilos, 15 kilos. Some users are purchasing 35 kilos because it's flexible, but everyone they're paying the same price and they're producing zero waste, especially in countries like Chile, where when recycling pet food packaging is really challenging because of the oil that has the packaging. So we're eliminating the need of recycling that to give them a cheaper solution, zero waste, also in the supply chain because an electric tricycle, and replacing the needs for a new package. In that sense, we have been collaborating for a year. We launched this year, and we are planning to scale up the Purina solution. Today, we have 3 units moving around Santiago, and based on the answer from our customer, actually, to be honest, has been much better than we thought, and we have greater expectation in the beginning. This has been scaling really quick, and now we are getting in a deeper relation with Nestle to do it not only in Chile, how we could scale this, because again, this is a global problem, this is a global crisis, and we need everyone on board. And adding a layer based on our previous question, this will work if we have everyone on board. And this is something, at least for me in the beginning, was new, because in the university they teach me how to compete with others, but not how to collaborate. And it's something that we are learning all together, how we could invite other brands on board, how we could invite other providers of technology on board, because we are running out of time. We have less than 10 years to 2030, and we need to reach this to mass consumer goods. And just to add something to close my presentation, we are doing this and always say the same because I think it's really important, not only for the high income millennial vegetarian like me, we are designing this for everyone that makes decisions based on price. So today we're trying to convince the user, first of all, based on price, because everyone claims that they're concerned about the climate crisis, but then when you see the result and how they're purchasing or the brands, they offer some product that not pick it then, because most of the time the decision is based on price. So today we want to be the cheapest solution, zero waste, and the ice on the cake would be the environmental impact because with that solution we could have everyone on board, and we will need the retailers, home delivery, and also we're working on a on-the-go solution to be wherever our consumers are. So that's more or less where we are today. We have operations in Chile, in the US, and in December we're going to be launching our pilot in Indonesia, in Jakarta, because we think as a global platform that helping the global brands to solve their problem, but also the poverty tax and the packaging waste.
Thank you, Jose Manuel. It's super interesting, and what I really like is how clear you can make also a link between the social issues and the environmental issues. It's not only one way; it's really both. We will dig into the collaboration in more detail, but I had a question about how it started. So, is it you who contacted Nestle? Is it the other way around? How this all began?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was just exploring because when I decided to collaborate with the brands, I connect with Nestle specifically for pet food. And in the first meeting, I present a PPT where, with 7 slides with the idea, because that technology didn't exist at that time. Today we have it, but at that time was just a picture. I remember was with Eric Seller, the country manager of Purina in Chile. And in the first meeting, he told me, okay, we need 3 of those units as soon as possible. And from the first moment was the commitment on doing this. To be honest, I wasn't prepared to start at that moment working with them. Actually, it took us a while to prepare the technology to be ready. But I approached them just and exploring, because the Algramo portfolio, the white label product that we're selling, they were home care products. So our brand was built around more home care products in the beginning. But then I was exploring this opportunity with Nestle, but from the beginning they have this commitment, and we start working together until a couple of months ago that we launched the first units here in Santiago.
Great. So I see the beginning was actually quite easy from what I hear. So now my question is, what was the most challenging up until now?
It was easy to have the commitment and the first meeting. Getting the solution into the market takes much more. And I would say that the challenge is, when we think about a global solution, you will need to fit the requirements of the food safety, for example, or the standards of Nestle that are quite high. and how to collaborate and co-design a solution. Because it's not like, and from the beginning we were saying this, that we are not a tech provider, that we're selling machines. We are working together to solve a problem. And actually, to be honest, we are developing the technology because it didn't exist. But if there were, we will push that technology. And I would say that was one of the most challenging thing is co-develop solution, because you will need to have the same language, the same purpose. And second, it's how to work with the quality team. It's always a problem, because again, the needs and the rules they were written when refill didn't exist. So how to adapt those requirements for refill solution? It's a start from zero, from scratch. And sometimes they ask us to do many things that they're really, I don't know, even compared with the production in the factory where they're producing the product, that we are doing that at the home, at the user's home. And sometimes we are co-creating some standards because they don't exist. We are the pioneers where we are moving the limit of what we have been doing, and especially in pet food, for example, in terms of having a dispenser and then a dispenser that is doing home delivery. That's something totally new, and that's took us a while.
Thank you, Jose Manuel.
If you want me to add on that, because that's definitely true. We have high requirements, and obviously we cannot allow to have any safety issue when we sell our products. You know, any issue doesn't stay local. But obviously, because this is new, we need to learn, and we need to learn how to make compromise. So this is not easy in a big company. I'm not saying taking risks, because we cannot take risks, but we need to understand how far we can go in changing the rules of the games, which is obviously, I mean, those rules are set and are very, very strong all along. So now when you're asking our quality people, that when we're telling them that we're going to sell product in an open system somehow, even if it ends up into a clean packaging, then still there is at one moment the open is at the product is at the air, and we need to really manage the risk around that to happen, and making sure that really the consumer at the end of the day, when he consumes the product, there is no difference with the packed product. The quality is the same. So obviously, this is very difficult to manage when we have complex supply chains. But I agree with you.
And you're talking about the quality of the product regarding the consumer, but it also changes the habits, because for the consumer, it's not the same to have delivery at home or to buy it in the store. So how did you manage that in your collaboration? Was it easy to convince Nestle to sell differently, and how the consumer accepted that also?
Yeah, I would say that in the beginning it wasn't that easy, because we knew that we were aligned with the commitment, but then when you get into the details is where the problems comes. From the eyes of the user, I would say that was much easier, because again, Algramo, and I have to repeat this, the bulk system has been on the market for many years, or even I would say that the first format to sell something, I would say that was in bulk. The thing, how we can bring back bulk with high quality standards and an experience that it's attractive for the user. And from the beginning, the people get it, and wasn't that difficult to explain the idea, especially in the dispenser that you can see the product comes, and you can use many parallels as the gas station. So from the users, the willingness to use this it's really high. Actually, the repurchase rate is huge, and when someone changes to refill with us, stay with us. So we have been receiving a great feedback from our users, and that was what it has been pushing us to scale up this solution outside Chile and with other products, because we need to have as many products as possible in the coming years.
And on your side, Elaine, was it a move that was easy for the brands? And can we imagine that, I don't know, all brands of Nestle would do something like that? How do you see that internally?
I think they need to see it to believe it. So this is why we're pushing for pilots. And when we do pilots, the number one success factor for us is consumer traction, is to understand that, yes, this consumer behavior change that we're asking is actually accepted and validated by the consumers. And as Jose Manuel is saying, generally it is. It's been very, very positive so far. Surprisingly positive, but our focus is really to bring that solution to normal people and not, as you said, also the vegetarians of the world and the super environmental conscious people that are already making the efforts. They're already going to bulk shops and buying packaging free. Obviously, these are not our primary consumers. We want to approach the majority of people. So this is why it needs to go beyond a sustainable advantage. It needs to go to convenience. We need to propose them something new, maybe through personalization, so that really they would want to go this way, and once they have done it, then they're very happy about the change. It's just a habit, and new habits are always difficult to get to.
Yeah, and it's also the same internally inside company. I just want to remind the audience that you can ask questions if you want. We will still take some questions. For me, I would like to go back on something you said, Jose Manuel, that I found was extremely interesting. You mentioned that so the technology was not there, so you had to develop it, and not only you had to develop it, but you had to co-develop it with, I suppose, the technical teams inside Nestle. And we all know that it's extremely difficult in terms of intellectual property, in a lot of aspects, to do this kind of co-development and technical co-development with big groups. Can you tell us a little bit more about this specific aspect and how the collaboration worked?
That's a very good question, because if you put on the side of the startup, maybe you could be worried about intellectual property of anything, comparing the size of a gram and Nestle. But to be honest, from the beginning, Nestle has been really respectful of what we have been developing, and it's reflecting in our contracts and how we relate with each other. And to be really honest, I see that Nestle is pushing this because the people needs a solution, not because they want to own everything. And I have been then seeing them really happy to share the place with other brands, with other portfolio of products, because they understood that this needs to have everyone on board. In the beginning, I was quite concerned of sharing the idea with others, with who were in the beginning my competitors, not necessarily with pet food, but for example with Unilever. We were competing in our products, and then I invite them to collaborate, same as Nestle. And I was quite worried because we were competing, and then we need to collaborate. And I realized that was the only chance that we have if we are everyone on the same boat and we collaborate. Otherwise, we're going to be competing something in an absurd space that we need to have this scaling really aggressively. So, and after a couple of years working with them, I realized that they are there because they need the solution, and their focus is the product, as Ellen was mentioning, and also as their building partnership with other startups. We're also building partnership with other brands, because everyone needs to scale this solution, and it won't be a silver bullet that will solve everything in all the markets. So I would encourage, if there's any entrepreneur or startup there, to share their ideas, to share with corporate partners, because we are running out of time. So I'm pretty sure that Nestle doesn't have time to start from scratch to develop the technology, for example. And if everyone does what is better in terms of, I don't know, Agramo is the platform and is the technology, Nestle are the products and they have the market. So we need to learn how to collaborate, and actually that's why we're here discussing this.
Elaine, you want to add something, or?
Yes, maybe one thing. When it comes to selling products in bulk, of course, there is the mobile solution where we, together with Agramo, deliver the product to the door of the consumer. But the The other model that Algramo is also working on is the retail model, right? Is to place those machines in retail. If every one of the brands come with another solution, we would come with Algramo and then somebody else would come with another solution, the standards will not be there. The retailers will be lost. And then it will not happen because it's not only the dimension, it's also what happens back floor in the supply chain. We want traceability, so we're not talking about old open bulk model that are just refilled in the store. This is not something that we go for. So we definitely need to find a way to standardize the solutions, and this is only in opening up. That's the only way. So obviously we would like to be recognized, so we need to somehow personalize, but it can be done with nice branding. But backshop technology, I believe we really need to open up.
So we have a question from the audience. What is the likelihood of acceptance in large markets like the US? And do supply chains in those markets allow pilots, like the example you've talked about?
Yeah, actually, we are running a pilot in New York since a couple of months ago. So this is a really good question. And the results that we have been seeing are great, as well as we have been doing in Chile, because this is, and to be honest, this is not just about Algramo, it's because the consumer is pushing for this kind of solution. So if they find one, they're going to use it and they're going to repurchase. So today we are working in the US with Colgate and Clorox for home care products. And the repurchase rate, it's great. The people is bringing back the packaging. And a really good point on that question is the supply chain. The supply chain, it's a key part of this, because maybe you have a great feedback, but then how do you put and you move that product into a dispenser? It's a huge part of the discussion. And again, that's also part of the co-creation. It's not only related with the dispenser itself and the packaging, it's also how to replenish that solution. And we have been doing with existing supply chains. The idea is not to create another supply chain, is to use the existing one and just change the SKU of the product. And now you are moving, I don't know, 1,000, half of a kilo of rice or whatever, and now you're moving in bulk just once, one big bin to plug into the dispenser machine.
One thing to mention, I understand that behind the question, it is about how to set up reverse logistic models in such a country, such a big country such as the US. What we've seen is that those models need to be regional. I will not say local because that will be pushing it, but if they could be local, that would be even better. Especially when it comes to the environmental performance of the model, because you need to ship back empty containers to be refilled at the factory, to be shipped back to the retailers. So you cannot allow to have very long distances. So this is clear to us, and through the LCA that we've run, we've seen that we needed to be regional, which means being more flexible. To have regional hubs where the products could be shipped and then could be filled in those solutions. And it's valid for bulk. It's also valid for reusable containers. So this is very important. But for this to happen, we need the scale again. So for pilots, this is very difficult to be close enough because maybe we don't have the right partners yet. The ecosystem partners are going to be very key to establish. So we see that this is actually happening in some parts of the world. I see around Paris and in France, there's a lot of different actors that are working on setting up these infrastructures. We need this to happen more globally.
Thank you. We have another question. To which extent Nestle want to engage deeply with its ecosystem to switch to these new solutions and behavior? And is it just based on the consumer experience and value perceived? Or can we believe the company can push proactively for it? And what I hear in this question is, so because it's something we've seen in the past, is it a trend that is really profound, or is it something that if there is a major, I don't know, crisis, for example, and some budget have to be cut off, is it one of the first things that will disappear? So how profound is it in the company? How much is it a priority? Elaine, you don't have your mic on.
Sorry about that. I can tell you that we are very serious about making this happen. It's not just a trend. We see that the consumers want it, so that's good. That's an excellent start. But we, as José Manuel said, we need to find a solution. We have a big problem to solve. And we have a target for 2025, and we've committed to it. So we want it to happen. It's not going to disappear. It's not going to be deprioritized. But for that, for these solutions to scale up, we need to validate them first, and we need to find the relevant partners all around. So this takes time, yes. But no, this is something. I mean, I would say that also the trend is coming from the laws, regulations also that are pushing us to go that direction, especially in Europe. And this is very good. I'm happy about it.
So I have another question, which is, so you mentioned, Elaine, that you are doing pilots, and we know very well that in innovation, a lot of pilots actually are failing because you try new things and it does not always work. So it's a question both for you and for José Manuel. For you, it's more, is it okay to fail? So can you try something and fail, and inside the Nestle culture that will not be a huge problem, and it's okay to continue? And that's for you. And on José Manuel part, it's more, we know that small companies can be very how to say, very not dependent, but really need the collaboration of big ones. And how do you deal in your business model the fact that you are working with very big companies? If one of these companies, for one reason or another, would stop working with you, would that endanger your company? So how do you work in your business model through that?
Yeah, so I can start. I mean, obviously for us, if we fail, it is not as bad as if a small company, a small startup fails. So we are ready to learn and to try different business models. And to be honest, when it comes to reuse, we feel there are many of them. So with Algramo, we're testing the mobile bulk, and then afterwards we will test the one in retail. Maybe mobile will fail, I hope not, but then we will have the retail. I hope it will not fail because it's the scale. So yes, of course, if we fail, we learn. We know that this is now the trend. We learn how to pivot and to build. But the big question for us is to build sustainable business models out of those innovative models. They need to be sustainable financially, environmentally, and for the consumers, a real solution in the long term. So yes.
On my side, first of all, I think that this is going to happen with or without Algramo, or with or without Nestle, because the consumer is pushing for this. So that's the first thing. So if Algramo fails, I'm pretty sure that someone else is going to do it. I'm pretty sure that we're not failing, and we're not going to fail, but not just to be that focused on us, for example. I think this is something that people is claiming and is going to be using it. What could fail? It could be maybe the technology, one specific dispenser, one supply chain, but the purpose, it won't fail. And actually that has been pushing us to work with several partners and to push this solution. We have been changing part of the technology, some dispenser, and we don't have any problem with that because our commitment is with the party tax and the packaging waste. So whatever that fits into that, we're going to do it. In terms of how to diversify the portfolio of partnership, actually, that's something that we are doing. Today, we have Unilever, Nestle, and some others that I cannot mention yet, but we're going to be launching in the coming month. But after seeing, this is, I'm being really honest, seeing the commitment, at least that we have with Nestle, I don't see them switching at least that fast from us. Not because that we are so special, that they need this solution, and we think that we could collaborate. We understand each other, what are the role of each other, and we see a really long-term relation. If that fails, it's maybe because the technology fails, not because Nestle or Gramo as people fails. And we are here to collaborate and to learn from that. So actually, I think that we will fail a lot in small samples of failures, and we will learn from that and to improve our solution, because I'm pretty sure that what we're doing today is going to give us the insight to scale up in the retail context, for example, and in other places that we are working together to solve in several projects.
Thank you. One question from the audience. Given the time, it might be the last one, but if you have questions, put them on the chat, and maybe we'll have for one or two more. We'll see. The question is, what is the role of big retail players or networks in this pursuit of zero waste?
Maybe we can start, and then Helen, do you comment?
Go
I would
ahead.
say that they're key. They're key, and I think we're missing them in many conversations. They're not talking that much of their commitments, because you could have all the brands doing a commitment on plastic, on packaging, but if they're not taking it to their stores, people is not gonna purchase them. So it's a key factor. Is in between actually the consumer and the brands is the retailer. And personally, I miss sometime having more retailers talking about this, having some aggressive commitments, because I would say that on the easy part of the discussion, because as user, we complain the brands of product that we are consuming, not that much where we are purchasing that. And that's one thing. And the other thing that I want to add that it's not that well commented sometimes is the responsibility of the user on the packaging. Because even if the packaging is recyclable or refillable, we need the consumer to bring back or to recycle that. And that's not that popular to say. It's always easier to complain to the system or to the brands. But also, even legally, the responsibility today, if you are bringing back a packaging to do a refill, it's on the brand, it's not on the user. And I think that we need to change that. So we'll need to have more commitment from the retail side, but also from the users.
Yes, I can only confirm what José Manuel said. We cannot do it without the retailers and the big retailers, or even the smaller ones. We can see that they are very, very keen on piloting with us, learning with us, but they will not do it no matter what. They need a system that makes sense for them in their operations. I would say even right away. So this is tricky. It needs to work, right? Because they are like in a theater. They're playing in front of their audience right away. We have a bit more margin. For example, we're learning. We have a network of Nestle stores in Switzerland that we're managing, that we're controlling, and there we're doing some testings and piloting, and we're learning from our consumers directly there. So there's a lot of things we can do. But when we're in a big retailer, we cannot do it halfway. Yeah. So it needs to be the right with the right quality and with the right system in place behind.
And have you tried or succeeded in having this kind of discussion with them directly?
So for us, yes, of course, we're having many of these discussions directly. Nothing that I can tell you about today, but it is definitely in our agenda. Yes.
Great, thank you. So I think we are almost at the time limit. So I would like to thank you all for being here, and thanks to our speakers for the great conversation we had. I hope it showed everyone that it is possible to actually do a collaboration that is interesting, that can have impacts with, of course, Nestle, but in general with between social entrepreneurs and major players. If you want to collaborate with Nestle, there is an opportunity right now. It's the CSV prize, and Elaine talked about it. I think I think you have until the 18th of December to apply. And so do not hesitate. And as you can see, Nestle is committed to this issue and to try to solve this issue. And so if you want to help them do that, I'm sure they will be really happy and glad to have your contribution. That's all for me. Do Elaine or Jose Manuel want to add one last word?
Thank you, Melanie. That was great.
Also, I want to add, like, to reach the commitments that we are trying to have in the Paris Agreement, we need everyone, and we need radical solution with radical consumers. So invite everyone to, if you see any refill or reusable solution in your city, town, whatever, support them, try to push for this kind of solution, because we are running out of time. Thanks.
Thank you. We have one last thing to show you. It's a drawing, because the session has been drawn by a visual artist, Dina. So thank you very much for this. I don't know who's going to show it, but if we can put it on the screen, that would be great. Not sure if this is working. Yes. Wow. Thank you, Dina. Really nice.
Excellent.
That's great. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us today and for sharing this great conversation.